Choose life. Choose a job. Choose a career. Choose a family. Choose a fucking big television. Choose washing machines, cars, compact disc players, and electrical cylinders. Choose a podcast. Choose the Untitled Film Podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Untitled Film Podcast. My name is Mike, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Lee.
Hiya, Mike. How you doing?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I've just got a bit of a croaky cough, so I do apologise if I start if I have a coughing fit, so I try not to.
Well, you can only do what you can do, mate, so
yeah,
it's one of them. What have you been up to since the last time we spoke?
What have I been up to? I went to watch the circus in Event City, Manchester. Continental Circus Berlin, it was called. Went there on Sunday, watched that. A bit of a proud moment, actually, because my little girl got dragged up on stage by the clown, and she had to muck around with the clown on stage, throw his hat around and stuff like that. And surprised she went up there, because I didn't think that she'd go up, because she's pretty shy. But I don't know, she went up there, she did it, and come back and she liked it. And then about an hour later on, I got dragged up as well on stage. Yeah, me and another two blokes, and the girl got dragged up, and we had to stand there with an instrument, and you had to put the other two guys ended up putting two hats on, and he had like a little trumpet, and the other guy had a little guitar, and he turned me around the clown, and I thought, I put my arms out for, no, what's going on here? Pulled this skirt out of the box, and this senorita headpiece, plaits either side, and put that on me, so I had to be a woman. So I had to run with some maracas and shake me ass, basically. So that was all fun anyway.
Yeah, I've seen the posters dotted around for the circus that was there. So
yeah, it was really good. It was definitely a go again. So anybody who's never been or intrigued and think, oh, is it worth going watching? It's definitely worth going watching. Definitely go again.
So your little girl's definitely not got any kind of phobias of clowns and stuff, because I know some kids can find clowns a little bit freaky.
Not really, I don't think. I mean, it was funny though, because that day I think she'd mentioned something to me about, I don't like clowns or something, they're scary or something, and then she went off at the circus. But, yeah, strange, but yeah, we enjoyed it. It was good times.
I think you might want to start showing her it, mate. She might be ready for that now.
No, I don't think she's ready for that one yet. Yeah, tried to with Harry Potter, the third film, the other day. I actually watched a little bit of it with me before, but my girlfriend was there, so I said, "Well, put the third film on. I can't watch another. Can't sit through Chamber of Secrets again or the first film yet again, because that's all she's been watching, the Sam too." So let's put the third one on. So she was saying to me, "Is it scary?" And I was like, "No, she'll be alright." I said, "They just have dementors, but you don't see the face. They're just hooded, Grim Reapers on the train." And I just said they're looking for Sirius Black. They're not after Harry or anything, and because it does have a darker tone. And she watched that bit, and then she was like, "Right, no, let's turn it off."
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so I was happy with it, and with it sticking out to watch more of it, but she didn't agree. So
yeah.
So we're stuck between the first film and Chamber of Secrets now.
Maybe you'll just have to show it to her on the sly when the missus isn't around.
Yeah, no, but then again, if she drops me in it and says, "Oh, the Dementors" or something like that, have you been watching that again? So I'll get it in the neck then. So best not put it on. Other films we've been watching. As I watched John Wick, obviously for this episode today. Watched that last night. I'm trying to think what else I've been watching, because I've not really watched that much recently. Trying to think. I think, Mike, go on. You tell me what you've been watching. I'll just have a quick thing.
I've not watched a whole lot myself either. Really, I went and watched Cold Pursuit the other day, the Liam Neeson.
Oh yeah.
That's been getting a bit of negative backlash because of some of his comments that he made. Doing the press tour. Have you seen that kind of shit that's going on with that?
No, I've not seen it, no.
So, the film is kind of like a revenge film. And he was asked on one of these Good Morning America type, morning TV shows where he drew his inspiration for playing a character who's out for revenge and all this kind of stuff. And he said he came across well, he said back in like the 70s when he was still living in Ireland, one of his female friends was raped. Um, and he asked, "Do you know who did it?" And she said no, but she apparently mentioned that the guy who raped her was black. So
Yeah.
Liam Neeson said he was kind of like overcome with anger, and found himself for like a period of a week walking around city streets with a kosh looking for the first black man so he could kind of take revenge kind of thing.
Yeah.
As a proxy, like he was like any kind of black fella would do as a proxy for this monster that raped my friend. And then he said he kind of came to his senses after like a few days of walking around with a kosh in his pocket, out for revenge.
Yeah.
And the way the world is at the moment with all these social justice warriors and snowflakes and everything like that, people have lost their fucking mind, calling him a racist and all this kind of stuff. And it's kind of like it's a tricky subject to navigate because people are so kind of like, I mean, obviously racism is abhorrent. It is, you can't get away from it. 2019, we should really be past kind of like, calling people certain names based on the colour of the skin or what they look like and shit like that. But clearly we're not. But the thing is, it's like he was telling the story saying that it was an event that he went through. And when he came to his senses, he was mortified to find himself and the position that he was in. So it was from a position of regret that he was saying it, not the fact that he was actually going out looking to, lynch. Well, obviously he was, but it doesn't strike me as someone who's kind of like a racist character. But he was just explaining something that happened like 40 years ago, where the world was a much different place, back in them terms. And obviously he's from Ireland, so they've got the whole kind of like, the IRA and that kind of shit that was going on between, And I just think in this day and age, people should be looking at things a little bit more subjectively and a little bit more balanced. And rather than saying he's a racist and boycott his movies, just look at the, what the guy actually said. I mean, John Barnes came to his defence and said, he's not a racist. He was just explaining the situation, kind of thing, and he felt bad for having those feelings back in the day. So if you actually listen to the interview and all that kind of stuff, and you listen to what Liam Neeson was saying, it's not, he wasn't saying anything racist. He wasn't calling someone a something. Do you know what I mean? He was actually just explaining something really bad that happened in his past and explaining the reasons for why it happened. But people have just lost their fucking minds and seen it as an excuse to call someone a racist, rather than examining the bigger problem as a whole. So it's kind of, it's weird because I went into that film, with that in my mind, it was hard to actually just sit and watch the film and enjoy the film for what it was, because all this shit that's going on behind the scenes kind of thing. So, I don't really want to get into all this kind of like what's right and what's wrong, but some people really need to, stop getting outraged for outrage's sake and just fucking get on with their own lives. It's one of them. But the film itself, Cold Pursuit, it's all right. It's a remake of, I think, a Norwegian film or a Swedish film that had Stellan Skarsgård in it. Liam Neeson's character's son gets murdered. He goes out for revenge and he finds out that he was murdered by like a drug lord kind of thing. So he starts plotting to, kill the drug lord, and he takes out some of his men one by one. And it's kind of violent and has a very kind of low-key, dark sense of humour to it, which I wasn't really expecting. And
he likes his revenge films, though, doesn't he, Liam Neeson?
He does, but it's not taken. It's really not taken, to the point where like his character almost becomes sidelined with the other things that are happening around the film. So it kind of, I was like, this is kind of like a Tarantino-esque film in a way, and then it felt like a Neil McDonough film, like In Bruges or Seven Psychopaths, with some of the dialogue and some of the scenes, and it's just a real kind of weird little mix of like different styles and films, and it's worth a watch. It's not brilliant or anything like that, but it's a decent way to pass a couple hours. So if you can get past all of that controversy with like Liam Neeson and just sit and enjoy the film, then
Check it out, yeah.
yeah, definitely check it out. There's something to be had in that film. Other than that, I'm struggling to think of what I was.
One of the films I watched as well. I've seen it before. I just flipped it on the other night because I've not seen it for about since release. I think it was, but Bone Tomahawk. The Kurt Russell.
Yeah, I saw a trailer for the next film by that guy, by the director of Bone Tomahawk, because he also did that Brawl in Cell Block 99.
Was it? Oh yeah, yeah.
So he's got a new film on the horizon, and I can't remember what it was fucking called now. What did you make of Bone Tomahawk though?
I really enjoyed it. So like I saw it on release and enjoyed it then. It's been a couple of years since I watched it, so I took it out a few nights ago and I thought, I'll put it on and not seen it for a bit. So it's still good. I think it's very underrated. And Kurt Russell's Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
You're always going to get a decent performance out of him. And he's got a bit of a known cast as well. Pretty much like the John Wick film we're going to talk about, because you've got David Arquette in there. You've got that, is it Sid Haig from House of a Thousand Corpses?
Yeah.
It's in it briefly at the start, but yeah, a bit of a known cast.
Well, I've just googled the director, that's S. Craig Zahler, and the next film he's got is called Dragged Across Concrete. So Vince Vaughn's in this one,
Right.
and Mel Gibson.
Oh.
So it looks all right from the trailer. It looked more of the same of what, like the style and substance of like Bone Tomahawk and
Yeah.
Brawl in Cell Block 99. So if you like those films, I'm sure it's going to be similar to those.
What did you think of the film yourself?
I enjoyed it. Sleeper film. Those are the best kind of films for me. In the same way as John Wick. It's one of those that you either hear about, from a friend or someone who's seen it, or you read about in reviews and stuff, and they say give it a try, and then you go and discover it for yourself, and you kind of like, actually, how did I miss this film in the first place? So
Yeah.
Which is kind of how I came across John Wick. So I suppose we might as well get into that, because I've not seen anything else to catch up on, really.
Let's go for it.
Yeah, so this week's film topic is John Wick from 2014.
This is your choice, Mike.
This is my choice. This week. Obviously, last week's pick was our guest, but we're back onto the normal string of things at the moment. So I thought we would go with something a little bit more recent than the films that we've been covering in the previous episodes. Even though this is already 5 years old, which, those 5 years have gone so fucking quick, it's unreal.
Yeah, I was surprised actually when I looked at the release date 2014, and I thought it was like 2016 or something.
Yeah, it's weird because you get to a certain point in your life, and then like the years just start dropping off the calendar, and you just don't realise how quickly like time starts to move. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
So, and the way I gauge it now is kind of like on the age of a film. So, I mean, if you look back on, well, the last like really big film. Let's just go off the original Avengers. When do you think that was?
The original Avengers?
Yeah.
I don't know, 2010, 2009?
Close, it was 2012. So the first Avengers film's already 7 years old. Do you know what I mean? And it's just kind of like, really?
Yeah.
So that kind of shit starts making me feel old, and it's like when I was watching The Terminator the other night, 1984, it's 35 years old. It's almost as old as I am, and it's just kind of like, it puts into perspective, like, maybe it's just, I'm going through a midlife crisis, and I'm just thinking, fucking, I'm getting old and all this kind of shit, but...
Yeah, I was thinking the same actually the other night, because I was watching, it was, a couple of nights ago actually, it was King of the Ring from 1998, the one with Mick Foley and Undertaker, when Undertaker chucks... Well, Mankind is playing his character, chucks him off top of the Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
That was 1998, that, and I was thinking to myself, it's like 21 years ago now, that. But it only seems 5 minutes.
It's weird, isn't it? It's kind of like, because stuff that you grew up with and you remember, you forget that they age with you.
Yeah.
And, it's just kind of like, shit, is that already that that old and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's like him as well. We went to watch Superman at the cinema, the Manchester Classic Films, and the guy who played, the young Clark in the film, and he turned up on stage there, and he's like, just said hi to everybody, and he had a little speech at the front there. I mean, he looks like he's in his, 60s now, mid-60s or something like that, but, what I mean? I've always just seen him in Superman, so when he appeared on stage, kind of thing, I just expected him to be a little bit older than that, and he was like, you know what I mean, he's mid-60s, so I was like, Jesus.
Yeah, he's just kind of like this, like, old, grey-haired, rotund kind of...
Yeah, he had a bit of he reminded me a bit of William Shatner, really, for his build.
Yeah, he kind of, yeah. He kind of looked like that. He's 61, Jeff East. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it just makes me feel old, so it kind of depresses me in a way. Especially when it's kind of like, oh yeah, we'll go with something a little bit more recent. Yeah, it's already 5 years old. What? Fucking hell.
Yeah.
So, yeah, John Wick. Obviously, you just kind of mentioned that you hadn't seen the film before.
Yeah, so I'm glad actually, Mike, you selected this one because it's been on like the what to watch the list for a while now. Obviously, for 5 years. So when you picked it, it's given that incentive to get it watched basically. And it was on Now TV a while back, and I checked the other week, and it went on. You've got John Wick 2 on there, and I thought, I need John Wick, don't I? So I just watched it on Showbox, and I was saying just off mic to you that usually I have my phone connected to me TV, and then just stream it over to the TV. But for some reason last night it weren't streaming it, so I just had to watch it on my phone with my headphones on. I still enjoyed the film and stuff like that. Just a different take on it, really. I just had the phone on basically on my chest as I lied down with a cushion propping it up, and just watched it that way. So
yeah. Well, it's definitely worth watching on a bigger screen if you get the chance. And
yeah, I wouldn't mind
sure
picking it up. Wouldn't mind picking it up actually, maybe, or hang fire till the third film comes out and see if they do a box set or something and get all three then.
Yeah, they probably. I would imagine they'll do a trilogy set because it's one of those types of films where this will be getting re-release on re-release on re-release kind of thing until physical media dies. This will be one of those films where they'll double and triple dip on it because it's kind of one of those popular films that people still buy and revisit kind of thing. It has become a cult film in those 5 years because
well, it's like what you were saying about Bone Tomahawk. That was a sleeper hit, and John Wick was exactly the same.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't make mega money when it first came out, but it was one of those films that I didn't see at the cinema at all, and I caught it on Blu-ray because I saw a review there's a website I look at for like Blu-ray reviews, High Def Digest, and I mean, when you're looking at reviews and stuff, it can be a tricky thing because if you disagree with like the critics' opinion and stuff like that, then obviously you shouldn't really be reading, reviews by those critics because they're obviously not in tune with your sensibilities and the films that you like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what I found with High Def Digest is like a lot of the reviewers on there have kind of got similar, sensibilities to myself in the kind of films that they like and stuff like that. So it's quite, for me at least, it's quite a kind of like decent resource to go to for film reviews. I trust the reviewers. If someone says on there that they like the film, then 9 times out of 10, if it's something
You'll go and check it out.
I'll go and check it out because I know it's going to be something that I'll probably end up enjoying as well. I mean, I found TV shows through this High Def Digest because they do cinema release reviews, but the main focus is on like Blu-ray, so they do whatever it is kind of thing, TV shows, documentaries, and obviously movies. So I found, I don't know if you ever seen a TV show called Justified.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's based on a Elmore Leonard short story, but they got like a couple of seasons out of it. Timothy Olyphant's in it, and it's kind of like a modern day Western. Cowboy type thing, but it's set in like present day around law enforcement, and it's really, really well written, and kind of like the stories and the character interactions are really, really good, and it's one of my favourite TV shows of all time, and I found that just through a review on here for the box set kind of thing. So when I saw the review for John Wick, I was like, immediately piqued my interest because Keanu Reeves, I know he gets a lot of stick for not being a great actor, but when Keanu Reeves is in an action film, 9 times out of 10 it's going to be a fucking good action film.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
because you look at the stuff that he's done previously. I mean, you forget that Keanu Reeves, beyond Bill and Ted and beyond his terrible accent in Dracula, you stick him in an action film, you're going to have a good time. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, Point Break, Speed.
exactly. Point Break, Speed. I mean, I've kind of seen bits of Speed recently, and they're very 90s-esque action films, so it's kind of dated in a way, the same way that Demolition Man's kind of dated, and I know
Yeah,
Sandra Bullock's in that as well. But for a 90s action film, it's actually still pretty well staged and well done. Um, so yeah, you got him in those, and obviously you've got him in the Matrix films as well, which they were landmark action films at the time, weren't they?
especially that first film. When that first film came out, it was beyond what we was kind of like seeing at the time. With the CGI and stuff like that, and the
Yeah,
bullet
and
time.
the
Sorry,
bullet time.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, more the bullet time, wasn't it? Yeah.
Were you at the cinema? Were you working at the cinema when Reloaded came out?
What year was it out, that one? Is it 2002, 2003?
2003. So I would have thought you were.
Yeah, I think I was, because I remember putting the poster out in the poster case when I think it was, I don't remember, it was with you or with Anthony. I remember the standee coming in as well.
Yeah.
They the standee up for that one, yeah. So I was there for that one, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember working through that, and it was fucking hammered, because it went from, like, The Matrix was another sleeper hit kind of film, because it came out at roughly around about the same time as Phantom Menace, and Phantom Menace was getting all of the hype around it because it was the first, true Star Wars film that had been released since,
Yeah.
The originals. I know they did the re-releases of the special editions in the cinema, but
Was you there for that?
no, but I was watching at Pillsworth at that
Pillsworth, yeah.
time. Yeah, so I remember going watching the originals.
So were you there for the Matrix, the first Matrix?
No, that was just before I started. I started in 2000, and the Matrix was like 99. So
You just missed it, yeah.
yeah, I just missed it, which was kind of a good thing. I remember going watching it with the girlfriend at the time, and came out of it, and I was just like, I don't know what I've quite watched there. Because it was one of those films that had that effect. It's one of those kind of nexus points in cinema, in a cinema history kind of thing, where you can point to that film and you can say this changed that genre of film.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because
Yeah, no, I mean,
every action film that came after it had their variation on bullet time. I mean, you had that Hugh Jackman film with Halle Berry, Swordfish, was it? John Travolta was in it.
oh yeah, yeah.
They did that bullet time sequence where a bomb was going, like a claymore bomb was going off, and the ball bearings were flying around, and so they had a fucking bullet time thing. Charlie's Angels came out around about that time, and they had bullet time, and then they had a wire fu, choreography, and they're all fucking jumping 50 foot in the air, and doing triple backs, somersaults, and all this kind of shit, and it's like, fucking hell. And it's all kind of directly, pinpointed back to the Matrix and the influence that had on action cinema at the time.
Yeah. Do you remember that one as well? I think it might have just been straight to like, video at the time or something, but I think it was called. It was a kung fu film, and the guy in it was fighting a cow, but I can't remember what it was called now. And he did it, and the cow was fighting a cow, and the cow was squirting milk out of him, out of its teats. And he leaned back and did like Keanu Reeves in the Matrix, and the milk went up dead.
That Kung Fu Hustle or something like that, or was it Kung Pao?
Kung Pao, that was it. Yeah. Was there a guy in it, and he put his tongue out, and he had like a face on his tongue or something?
I know the film that you're talking about, but I never saw it because I've never been into those kind of like over the top parody type shit.
Yeah, it was very over the top. I think I noticed it because I think I rented something out, or I bought a DVD, and it was advertised before. It might have even been Dog Soldiers or something like that. It was advertised before the start of that, and that's where I saw it. And then obviously I checked it out then because I just thought this looks just OTT. They said I'm gonna have to see what this is about. And
yeah, I think it was called Kung Pao because I remember the
Kung Pao
poster was
Fist of Fury or something like that.
Something Enter the Fist maybe.
Kung Pao Enter the Fist of Kung Pao, something like that. Anyway,
Yeah,
we'll go with Kung
because
Pao.
I remember the poster was him with like a pair of nunchucks, but he had instead of like the actual bars on the nunchucks, I think it was like fucking squirrels or something like that.
Yeah,
So yeah, I've never.
Kung Pao Enter the Fist. There we go, Mike. I've just
Ah,
looked it up now. Correct. 2002. Yeah, 2002. 6.2 on Internet Movie Database. Believe it or not.
yeah, I just don't like that kind of stuff, so I'm probably not. But I know the bit you mean with the cow, like
Yeah,
because it's like squirting milk and they're coming out like the bullets in bullet time and shit.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It's that thing, and it's taking the mick out of the Matrix, but.
yeah. Um,
But this is good. Just sticking with John Wick as well. I didn't notice though that till I checked it out later on today. Actually, that it's very it's got a good connection with the Matrix in it because like, obviously you've got Keanu Reeves starring in it. You've got is it the executive producer had something to do with Matrix or something, and there was somebody else on board, and then there was another actor who thought he was a character in the Matrix in the second film was it I think, and he fought on top of the truck.
yeah, there's quite a few connections. So
Hmm.
if we're going there, we might as well get into it. So one of the directors, because John Wick was directed by two people, but only one got the credit because of how the Directors Guild of America works. Dog, move before I kill you. Um, breaking the fourth wall there, people. I apologise, but the dog is absolutely driving me insane.
Oh,
So
what's he doing, Mike?
he's just been a fucking idiot. Um, Yeah, okay, so lost my train of thought. The director of the film, Chad Stahelski, uh, was given the credit, but it was also directed by one of the producers, David Leitch, who went on to direct Atomic Blonde, and he did Deadpool 2.
Oh yeah,
So yeah, he didn't come back for John Wick
two.
Chapter 2 because he was directing the Charlize Theron Atomic Blonde film at the time. But Chad Stahelski, who was credited as the director on John Wick and John Wick 2, he actually stunt doubled for Keanu Reeves in The Matrix.
Oh,
He's actually stunt doubled for him going even further back to as far as I think probably even Point Break. So he's known like his connection with Keanu goes way back. Do
yeah,
you know what I
to the
mean?
early 90s, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He was also Chad Stahelski was also a stunt double for Brandon Lee after Brandon Lee died filming The Crow. He was one of the stunt doubles that was used to replace him in that.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
So obviously, he's well renowned in the stunt world. He's been in all kinds of shit. If you go through his resume, you can see he was on Escape from LA. He was in a stunt guy in Alien Resurrection. Um,
Really good films, Amber.
well, then you get to kind of like more gritty films like 8mm. He did The Matrix in '99. Ghost of Mars, the John Carpenter film. Matrix Reloaded, where he was actually a stunt coordinator on that, so he'd been bumped up from being just a double to being involved in coordinating the stunts on Reloaded and Revolutions. He was
Right.
also a stunt guy in Spider-Man 2, Constantine,
Keanu Reeves
Serenity,
again. Constantine.
yeah, the Triple X sequel, State of the Union, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, V for Vendetta, 300, Live Free and Die Hard. Oof,
Uh,
yeah. The most recent Rambo, The Expendables, Iron Man 2. It's just like his kind of like stock in stunts kind of like gets better and better and better as you go along.
yeah.
He was involved in the Expendables 2. He worked with Keanu Reeves again on the Man of Tai Chi film that Reeves directed. He was one of the martial arts
Mm.
choreographers on that. So he's got a quite a healthy working relationship with Keanu Reeves, to say that he just started stunt doubling with him back on The Matrix, to the point where he's actually directing, Reeves in, what's now become kind of like a staple action film. if you're also looking at other Matrix connections, Randall Duke Kim, who plays the Doctor in John Wick, he shows up. He was the Keymaker.
I thought I recognised him.
Yeah.
In the second film, was it that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then the guy that you were mentioning who fights on top of the fights Morpheus on top of the truck. That's a guy called Daniel Bernhardt, who is Agent. Is it Johnson? He's like the lead agent in the Matrix Reloaded. When he's first introduced, and then like Keanu Reeves has a little scuffle with him, then he's like, upgrades. Yeah, and then
so when he strangles him on the capture Keanu Reeves and he's on the chair, and then he try to put the bag on his head, and
he has a fight with him in the Red Circle.
in the club.
Yeah, in the club. Yeah. And he's the guy that chucks him off. He chucks John Wick over the balcony and onto the floor.
Oh, yeah. It's so nasty fall.
Yeah, so he wins that fight in a way, but that's because, there's a slight connection between, the Matrix Reloaded and stuff. So he's he's Yosef's security supervisor at the Red Circle. So he's not just a henchman who can be, like, headshotted throughout the film. So they've given him a bigger part because he's obviously, he's worked with Keanu before. Obviously, you've got the connection with him being one of the agents in the Reloaded films. So that's why he's a little bit more skilled and is actually more of a physical threat to John Wick in this film than what 90% of the guys who he comes across are.
Yeah, I thought I recognised his name as well because he was. He starred in as well. He was in the Mortal Kombat TV series as well. That's where I recognised him from.
Oh, right, okay. I would never have got that one because I've never seen those. So.
Yeah, Conquest, Mortal Kombat Conquest, but he was also in Bloodsport as well. I think it's Bloodsport 4. Recognising that as well, yeah. Right. Just when you said his name, Daniel Bernhardt, I recognised it. Oh no, he was in Bloodsport 2 and Bloodsport 3 and 4 as well. So he was kind of the replacement for Van Damme.
Oh, right, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there's quite a few little kind of interconnecting, people between the Matrix films and these films, mainly through the stunt work and stuff like that. But it's nice to see because obviously Reeves was reported to have given up like $80 million of his paychecks from the Matrix sequels and given it to like cast and crew and stunt crew because he felt like they deserved like more recognition and stuff. So he gave up his back end, like the percentage points that he makes on box office, and he bought all of the stunt crew like a Harley Davidson and helped out the families and donated money to them and all that kind of stuff and looked after them.
Yeah, top man.
Yeah, because he's kind of like renowned as being like one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. One of the humblest guys and most generous guys in Hollywood. Just for the shit that he does, like, and like I say, giving up like, I'm pretty sure it was like an 80 million fucking back end that he would have earned off the profits of the Reloaded and Revolutions films, and he just gave it all away.
Yeah, so nice man.
Yeah.
There's the key. Is it the key maker? Did you say?
Yeah.
Is he returned for the sequel as well? Or is it just in this first film? Are you keeping it quiet because I've not seen the sequel yet?
Is it a plot point? No, it's not a plot point. Yeah, he returns as the Doctor in the next film.
Yeah, I was just wondering.
Yeah. There is also another kind of like connection from the Matrix films in the sequels that I don't really want to spoil if you don't already know them. But if you've seen any of the trailers for Chapter 2, then you probably already seen
them. I've not checked any trailers yet. I'm just gonna go straight into the film. I'm not gonna watch any trailers.
Don't watch the trailers. Try and avoid the trailers. Try and avoid anything on Chapter 2 and just watch it. And then I think if you're able to avoid anything like that, you'll get a nice little surprise because there's a decent nod and a wink to the Matrix films in those ones.
Yeah, because this day and age as well, you always find now you might be the same. Which when you're watching a trailer, you kind of get the best parts of the film are in the trailer. So
yeah.
I'm just going to go into it blind, I think, and just watch it just off the cuff and just watch the film without a trailer.
Yeah,
there's no need, is there?
100%. Stahelski directed and blah 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 blah, and David Leitch has gone on to obviously find a little bit of success in his own right as a director because he, off the back of John Wick, he was able to direct Atomic Blonde, which is Kind of similar to John Wick in that you've got this highly trained female assassin type thing,
Yeah.
played by Charlize Theron. Although it doesn't have quite as strong a story as John Wick. It's not quite as focused, but the action scenes are very reminiscent and kind of similarly brutal to what's in John Wick. So,
So basically, it's that just a case of like swapping out Keanu Reeves and putting Charlize Theron in.
yeah, kind of, but it's like I say, the story's not as compelling or interesting
Strong.
because I mean, it's just like the story in John Wick. The simplicity is its strength. You know what I mean? It's kind of like guys got out of the business for a woman. Woman dies. Guy gets dragged into the business because of just some ruthless little shit who kills his dog, who's and he just decides to kill everyone. The simplicity is just kind of like an absolute strength. It's kind of there's no meat on this story whatsoever, and there doesn't need to be because just it harkens back to simpler days of action films, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was aware about the dog but I forgot actually. I think it was about 10 minutes into the film or something like that, and his dog, when he got the dog, and I was a bit like, it dawned on me then. I remember somebody telling me in the past about his dog dying or something, and I thought, right, okay.
Yeah.
I expected his dog to die later on in the film. I didn't know he was going to die as a pup or something like that. I thought it was going to like flash forward a bit, and he'd had the dog maybe 5 years or something. The dog's a bit older, and then the dog gets taken out trying to protect him or something like that. So when he's a pup and that, you see that thug that just basically it hits the dog with that metal paw, is it a bat or whatever? It's a bit like, whoa.
It's one of the golden rules. If you don't want to alienate your audience in cinema or TV or whatever it is, don't kill a dog. It's one of the golden rules. Do not kill a dog. But they kill a dog, and you kind of, rather than alienating I'm sure there was a percentage of the audience that pulled back and was lost in the film because they killed the dog. But because of that simple act, you understand completely his reasoning, and then you start to root for John in his quest for kind of like vengeance.
Yeah, you like, go on, John, go on.
Yeah, because I mean, there's other reasons why you the thing is that people kind of forget is everyone in this film's a bad guy, even John Wick. John Wick is not a nice guy because he's a contract killer.
Yeah.
But you start to root for him because of what happens to him, and obviously you find out that he left the business and he left, the criminal underworld where he was a highly ranked assassin for his woman, and his woman dies of something we don't kind of know. Is it cancer? Is it leukemia? But who the fuck knows? But the point.
Yeah, but did it show at the start though when he hugging her or something? And then he hugged her and she just collapsed.
She just collapsed, yeah. So it's kind of a mystery illness. I don't think it's ever explained. But you see her in the hospital bed and then she dies. And before she dies, the last thing she does is arrange for like a puppy to be delivered to John. So he has a companion and he has something to love beyond, their relationship.
Yeah.
And... yeah, the puppy is killed and just kind of like it's only in the film for about 5, maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah,
and then it's just taken away, so quickly. But there's a really nice scene where the puppy comes along and is delivered, and he signs for it. It's like, what the fuck? And then he gets that little note from his wife, who's played by Bridget Moynihan in quite a thankless little role.
Yeah, I mean, I recognise her straight away from I, Robot with Will Smith.
Yeah, or being Tom Brady's wife, if you're an American football fan. Yeah, she's kind of like in it, and then she's not. So, not much of a role for her to get her teeth into, but she just kind of like is there.
Yeah.
As another excuse for John to go off on people. But there's the really nice kind of... I know people shit on Reeves for not being a good actor, but when he's reading that note from his wife and then he starts to cry, that's actually...
quite upsetting that, yeah.
Yeah, because I was
feel
kind
for
of...
him.
You do, and he kind of sells that really well, and he just kind of like puts the letter up to his nose to kind of smell his wife's scent, and and just he's got tears in his eyes, and I'm like, that's actually quite a convincing little scene there. And I was surprised that Reeves went there with that, because I was like, oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
The one of the little bits of trivia that I picked up on was the dog who actually dies. Is called Daisy. It's not called Daisy in real life. I can't remember what it's actually
It's a
called.
boy. Is it a boy?
Probably. But it went to the premiere for the film. It was on the red carpet, so there's pictures. If you Google it, there's pictures of the dog on the red carpet with its owner at the premiere for the film.
Nice.
And the guy who actually kills the dog, one of Yosef's henchmen, in between takes, he wouldn't spend time with the rest of the cast and crew. He chose to sit and play with the dog.
Oh.
So I don't know what that says about him, but yeah, he obviously wanted to get a little bit close with the dog because he had to obviously kill it.
Yeah.
Probably not a nice thing to film, but I mean, it's done tastefully. It's done off camera anyway, so you don't kind of like see the
You
killing.
just hear the cry, don't you, of the dog?
Yeah, yeah,
squeak.
The little, yeah. And it's awful. I mean, I'm a dog owner myself, and you know, obviously, so are you. And it's not a nice feeling. If you've ever lost a dog, it's not a nice feeling to have a dog taken away from you. And not so much that, but a dog that actually represents, you know, a relationship with your wife as well. You know, a final parting gift kind of thing. That's even worse. And he is the worst person in the world to kill the dog. You know, he's the worst person you would want coming after you. as we would find out.
Definitely. I think as well though, because the dog was because it was only a pup, wasn't it? So it's defenceless against these the folks who attacked John Wick. Yeah. So it couldn't really defend itself. It was just kind of barking without crying, and it's like, go and shut that dog up, kind of thing. And next thing you know, it's just been taken out, and
it's kind of cute as well because like even though it's only in it for a few minutes, I mean it's kind of cute the reaction that the pup gives to Keanu, because he obviously must have played with it behind the scenes and stuff, because he goes to bed and he puts a little blanket down, you know, to get the dog off the bed. And then the dog wakes him up in the morning, and he's like, I'm up, and he starts to get out of bed, but the dog obviously likes Keanu because it jumps up on his back and it's trying to play with him as he's getting out of the bed, and I just thought, oh, that's a nice little touch. So I just, you know, there's obviously a relationship forming between them two already, and then it's just cruelly taken away.
That was it, because you were so engrossed in that. From 10 minutes when the dog was alive, you saw like, yeah, what's going to happen next? What's he going to do with the dog next? Because they took the dog out in his car, didn't he?
Yeah, where he was going to kill himself. If you rewatch that, he was actually going to, you know, he was barreling down.
Is that what we were doing when we were driving around on the track? Yeah.
Yeah, and if he didn't have the dog there, I don't think he would have hit the brakes. You know, that was why he kind of like screams in anguish kind of thing, because he's like, fuck it, I've had enough of this kind of thing. Starts barreling down, you know, in his 69 Mustang, which is a beautiful car. And then he slams on the brakes and screams, and obviously makes the decision to carry on with life there. So at least that's how I read that.
Yeah, see, I just thought he was just letting out a bit of anger, but now I think back to it now, you're right, I think.
He could well have been, but I think if he didn't have that dog in the seat at that point, then that anger might have actually, you know, just overtaken him. And he probably just would have thought, fuck it, I've got nothing else to live for. Because he not only is he kind of like left the previous life behind for his wife, he made a promise to her that he wouldn't go back into that life. So he's once she's out of his life and passed away, he's literally nothing else to live for.
Yeah.
And she obviously knew that, so that's why she sent him the puppy. Because she knows that John is a man of his word, and as Vigo says, he's a man of will. And because he's made a promise to her, she knows that he would absolutely not break that promise.
Yeah.
So that's why she gives him the puppy, so he can continue on with his life, kind of thing.
You know, when you said he was driving the Mustang,
yeah,
he drove a Mustang in Point Break as well, didn't he? I'm not sure it was the same one, but it might just be a little nod to that. Is that movie again?
Yeah, possibly. Or the fact that it's just a really nice car. Because he drives I think, is it a Charger or a Challenger after that when he goes to Aurelio?
Oh, I want a car. I need a
Yeah,
car or something
yeah, I
like
need
that.
a ride. I need a ride.
Yeah.
Aurelio, played by John Leguizamo.
So, yeah.
Yeah, he's always cool, apart from when he's in Spawn. But he hammed it up to fuck when he was in Spawn anyway.
Yeah, and what was the other one? The Land of the Dead as well.
Yeah,
I think he was going through the motions in that film. I don't think he was at his best in Land of the Dead. He was all right, but I've seen him in better films.
yeah.
I just always remember him playing Luigi in Super Mario Brothers. I think that was the first film I ever saw with him in. I went to the cinema watching that back in the day. So every time I see him, I always just reminds me of Luigi when that green uniform is gone.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that kind of sets this film apart from like normal action films is the look of the film as well. Not only is like the action kind of staged in longer takes and kind of like more coherent. There's no jump cutting or anything like that. This is all like good long, 10, 20-second takes. So you see the full choreography with like, Keanu. You can tell Keanu's in the film doing all of the stunts that he can possibly do.
Yeah, I read he did something like, is it 90% of the stunts himself?
I think that's what he was
Yeah,
quoted as saying. He did like 90% of the stunts, yeah. And you can absolutely believe it because he trained so hard for this film. He trained, judo, he trained Brazilian jiu-jitsu, gun training, vehicle training. He already had kind of like, a background in martial arts because of his work on The Matrix and
Matrix.
stuff
Yeah,
like that. And obviously he had a background in firearms for things like Point Break and shit like that. But this is just kind of like next level.
yeah. I think he had to do something like, was it 8 hours a day training for about 4 months or something like that?
He didn't have to do it. He wanted to do it,
He
and
wanted
that's
to do it.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's the difference with him. It's kind of like when he goes into stuff like this, he goes in full kind of like commitment. All the way. He is all the way in there, balls
yeah.
deep.
Well, this should go back to what we were saying about like the likes of Tom Cruise in it and Michael J. Fox, the troopers, aren't they? They're committed to the role.
Yeah, and it shows, and there's videos online for his training for John Wick 2, where he's on a gun range and you see him doing like a triple gun thing, from pistol to shotgun, from shotgun to assault rifle, and then back to pistol. And the accuracy and the speed of his firing on the firing range as he's practicing is just unreal.
Yeah,
To say that he's just kind of like an actor. The commitment that he showed to actually doing all the training and stuff, and the judo and the Brazilian jiu-jitsu that he does, it's just fucking, next. I think I read that he trained with the Machado brothers, who are, aside from the Gracies, kind of like one of the most well-respected families in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And, he trained with them non-stop. So I don't know what belt he is in BJJ, but I'm sure he's got to be high level.
yeah, definitely. It's got to be, hasn't it? But that's the
Yeah.
thing, innit? He's got the role, and he's like, right, okay, well, if I'm doing this, I'm doing it full steam ahead kind of thing. I'm, you know what I mean, throwing for everything in there, and I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the thing, and that's the good thing. You could tell with the film as well. You could tell that he's gone full hog
Yeah, and the thing is,
role.
he's in his 50s with these films.
Yeah,
He's not a young guy. I mean, he was in his 30s when he did the Matrix films. Now he's in his 50s, and he's arguably doing better work, action wise, than what he was doing in the Matrix films. Because, I mean, as good as the Matrix was, and to a lesser extent, the sequels, the action when you go back and watch it, it's a little bit over stylized now. I think that whole wire fu shit that was popular in Hong Kong cinema in the 90s and then popularized by The Matrix. I think that hasn't aged that well if you go back and watch it. I mean, I suppose it depends on how it's implemented, because you could go and watch things like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, with all the wire fu shit and that, and because it's told in a more artful way, it doesn't kind of like date the movie as much as what it does in
in the
stuff
Matrix.
like The Matrix. Yeah, because as well as it's done, it's not seamless kind of thing. There's still bits in there, like when he's flipping back out of the train tracks, you can see him holding onto the wires. They've not quite digitally erased them perfectly, so you can see he's actually using the wires to flip himself back out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's there's still kind of like little seams that are kind of there. But with this is all hand to hand. There's very little CGI. The only CGI is kind of like the muzzle flashes, and they use CGI blood, which I normally hate CGI blood in films. I don't think it looks realistic, but I think that in this it looks decent. It doesn't. At no point I'm kind of pulled out of the film because I'm like, oh, that looks fucking shit.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think there's only one scene I picked up on the board. I can't remember if it was in the club or was it. He shot somebody in the chest a few times, and he shot him in the head, and you saw the blood, and you knew it was CGI. But that was the only thing I picked up on.
Yeah, but you couldn't do that with a practical squib because the guy it's a bald-headed guy, I think, where he double taps him in the chest and then onto the head, and the guy kind of flies backwards, kind of thing. But and it's just kind of like a bit of mist that comes out the back of his head.
Yeah, I think that's the most obvious one, though. The obvious scene in the whole film, and you think, oh yeah, that's a bit of CGI there, but
I say, you couldn't really do it practical, and the only other option would be to not have any blood come out the back of his head, which would look equally as unrealistic.
Yeah.
For someone to get shot point blank in the head and nothing to happen, just his head snaps back, kind of thing. Then you would be like, yeah, that doesn't look real either. Like I say, there's nothing egregious about the CG blood in this, and the muzzle flashes and stuff like that. I kind of go with it.
Yeah.
And that whole like scene in the Red Circle Club, that's just fucking, all of it is just brutal. All of it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're in for a brutal film when the first fight scene where the henchmen come into his house and stuff. The bit where I was like 100% into the film was where he flips that guy onto his sink or his table or something, and he just fucking forearms him into the neck and snaps his neck back. And I was just like, I'm all the way in on this film now.
Was he fighting two of them at that point though?
I think it was about 8 of them in there, but there was 2 guys in the kitchen, and one of them had a gun. So and the other guy he'd flipped over onto the sink, and in order to dispatch him as quickly as possible, he just fucking hammer fists his head on his neck. And his head just like snaps back.
Brilliant that part.
Yeah, and then
did you pick up on the guy? You probably picked up on it, but do you know the guy who comes in and cleans up the bodies?
Yeah,
for the agency.
Yeah,
he played Sully, didn't he, in Commando?
He did. David Patrick Kelly, and he was also he was also in The Crow as well. He was what's his name in The Crow? He's like the head of the goons. T-Bird? Yeah, T-Bird. And if you want to go even further back, he was in The Warriors. He's the guy.
Yeah, he was.
Warriors come out to play. That's it. Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah. So.
But I just always remember him from Commando, I think. And when I saw him last night when I watched it, and I thought, I'm sure that's him from Commando. And then when the film had finished, I checked it out on Internet Movie Database. And it was, and I was like, yeah.
He's recognisable. He's got one of those faces that you recognise him instantly because obviously he's.
I mean, even though he's aged a hell of a lot since.
Yeah, he's like this little old man kind of thing now, and he's just got his little hat on and that kind of stuff, and comes across quite unassuming in this film, but you still recognise him because, like, obviously The Warriors is a massive film. People remember him from that alone. So, what else did I want to get into about the Red Circle thing? Oh,
did you know when he went to the Red Circle, when he went to the hotel?
The Continental, yeah.
Yeah, the Continental, yeah. And he bumped in. You have to help me out here because I only watched it last night, so I'm forgetting some of the names. But the girl who lets on to him, and she was contracted to kill him as well.
Adrienne Palicki.
Yeah. When I watched it last night, I thought there was they might have had a bit of thing, her and John Wick back in the past, maybe.
Yeah, possibly. It's kind of hinted at, and I suppose there could be a little bit of history with the chick behind the bar as well.
Yeah, definitely her as well. Yeah.
Yeah, she's hot, man. I've got a thing for chicks with tattoos at the moment, so yeah. I don't think those tattoos are real though, because I've seen pictures of her and she doesn't seem to have those tats. But yeah, Adrienne Palicki, I recognised her from. I used to watch that Friday Night Lights TV show, and yeah, she was in that. She was pretty good in that. She's been in a few things. She was also cast as Wonder Woman when they were going to do the Wonder Woman TV show, so she filmed the pilot.
Oh.
of a Wonder Woman TV show, but then it never went anywhere.
What year was that? Was that before like the likes of Supergirl and stuff?
It was just before the Wonder Woman film.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Was this supposed to fit in with the Flash and?
I think maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the pilot aired. I think it was just kind of like shown around the network executives and stuff, and then that was it.
Turned it down. Yeah.
2011 apparently. So a little bit further back.
Mm.
It was expected to debut in 2011, but NBC even opted not to buy the series. Yeah, if you go on Google, you'll see her in the outfit.
The suit, yeah.
Yeah, there's pictures of her in the outfit. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think there was something between them. Maybe John Wick's had a bit of her, always had a bit of the girl in the bar or something.
Possibly,
Definitely to them all, the girl in the bar were definitely, because she spoke to him and very flirtatious with him. And,
oh yeah,
yeah.
And when he goes to Continental and he's in the bar, he goes to see Winston, who's played by the fucking man, Ian McShane.
Yeah. No, he's been in a few things.
Of course he has. Most people obviously will know him above all else as Lovejoy.
Yeah.
At least if you're from the UK. Outside the UK, you'll probably know him as Al Swearingen from the Deadpool TV show. Have you ever seen that?
I don't think I have, no.
It's like a Western type thing, but he's a utter bastard in that. It's worth tracking down. It's only 3 seasons of it, and it was kind of left in an unfinished state because I think they were expecting to come back for a 4th season, but I don't think it got picked up for the 4th season. So it kind of ends in... It's one of those TV shows that doesn't have a fully satisfying conclusion, but the TV show is that good up until that point, then you're still kind of like happy to watch it. I think there was rumblings of doing a movie, but I think that's not going to happen now because that was a good few years ago when they were thinking about doing a movie for it. But
was he Game of Thrones as well?
He was, not for a long time. Spoilers, because we're talking about Game of Thrones here. Yeah, he showed up and had a few scenes with the Hound after the Hound kind of tries to reform.
He was in. I know what he was. He was in Pirates of the Caribbean as well.
He was.
Blackbeard.
The Blackbeard one. Yeah. Terrible fucking film.
He's a local lad as well, though, isn't he? Because he's from Blackburn.
Yeah. Yeah, he's done well for himself. He was also in Kung Fu Panda. He was the bad guy in the first Kung Fu Panda. What was his name?
It's begin with T, then I think.
Tai Long, I want to say, or something like that. I think it was Tai Long. Yeah,
Tai Lung.
There you go. Yeah, so
it was in for Case 39 as well. That's not a bad film. Have you seen that one?
What's that?
Case 39.
No.
It stars Renée Zellweger and the young girl. Bradley Cooper's in it as well. And the young girl, she was in Silent Hill.
The film?
The film, yeah. Sorry, the film.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's not too bad actually. I think the young girl, I've only seen it once. The young girl I think she's possessed or something.
See, whenever you say to me it's not too bad, I take it. Coming out of the mouth of anyone else, it's kind of like, okay, fair enough. But coming out of your mouth, because I know some of the films that you've watched, and you like to dive in the bargain bins of DVDs every now and then. So you've seen some pretty low rent horror films.
Yeah,
I know, yeah.
This is the step up to the.
Is it?
Yeah. The B movies is definitely a step up.
Right.
Yeah, it was a bit of a. It wasn't. I think it was. I think I bought it or something like for a couple of quid or something a few years back, and just thought, yeah, you know what I mean. I'll just give it a watch and see what I think. And I watched it and was like, whoa, this is actually better than what it'd be. It was actually pretty creepy as well. Yeah. Young girl in it. Yeah. So anybody wants to check that out. Case 39.
Okay, interesting.
Interesting, yeah. Maybe check the trailer out, see what you think.
Yeah, I'll have a look. I'll see if I can find it. So yeah, he plays Winston, who's kind of like the head of the Continental.
Gabri returns for chapter 2 and maybe the third film? Spoilers.
Yeah, I don't know about the third one. I would think so. But you never know.
Mm.
Yeah, one of the things that I kind of found interesting, if anyone hasn't already seen it, if you go to there's a YouTube channel. I think it's on FilmJoy now, but if you search for movies with Mikey, um, there's a video that he's done on John Wick, and I found it quite interesting because he draws some parallels between the John Wick film and kind of Greek mythology.
Right.
So like he's drawing like the parallel or the narrative that he pulled out of the film is like the boogeyman destroys Mount Olympus. So the way he sees it is like Mount Olympus is the continental,
Mm.
and all the gods kind of like go there. That's why there's no business, quote unquote, business allowed
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
continental grounds because they want to keep it neutral, so there's no killing allowed on the grounds of the hotel. But Mount Olympus is, supposed to be represented by the Continental Hotel, and Winston plays like Zeus. He parallels Zeus, who's kind of like the overseer of all the kind of lesser gods around New York City and stuff. And it's quite an interesting theory.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, because it kind of the when I watched that, I was kind of like, okay, so you can kind of see John as like a demigod, like Kratos, taking on like the other gods like Vigo, who would be an underworld god of New York and stuff.
Mm.
Being one
Yeah.
of the crime bosses, and it kind of explains in a way if you kind of if you watch the video and then you go back and watch John Wick with those eyes and looking for that kind of stuff, it kind of explains some of the criticisms of the film, because I know some people kind of, not criticisms, but some people take the piss out of the fact that John Wick he's literally going through this film as if he's got like a headshot aimbot on. Because every shot is like headshot, headshot, headshot. One
Well,
shot kills kind of thing.
it's just that good, though, isn't it?
Yeah, he is just that good. But if you kind of watch it on that level, then, with him being kind of like
Well,
a
demigod.
demigod, yeah, then it would kind of explain like why he's so unkillable kind of thing. Because he's like Kratos in that way. He's going after
Yeah.
all the gods, and he's just fucking ripping people to pieces, like the God of War games. And it also explains why, like people in nightclub, the common folk, if you will, don't kind of react or try to stop them, because it's almost as if like there's another level of awareness, that mortal beings, you, me, whoever in these clubs or on the streets, just passing by
Yeah.
while these gunshots and, gunfights are going on. They're not aware that the gods of Olympus are at war. So they don't kind of like, not that they don't pay attention to it, but they just don't react to it in a certain way. They just let it
Just,
go on,
yeah. Just turn the blind eye to it, kind of
and
thing.
try and get out of the way kind of thing,
Yeah.
while all these gods are warring and shit. And it's kind of interesting to watch that. It's not, kind of like this is the story of Greek mythology and, it follows everything exactly the same in John Wick, because that's not what he was kind of like alluding to in his video. But what he was saying is they take elements of Greek mythology and they kind of transplant it into this film, and a lot more in John Wick 2, which I want to keep as separate for after you've watched that.
Yeah.
But it doubles down on the mythology and stuff, or some of the characters. I mean, what's the word? He's not a receptionist, but the guy at the counter at
At the hotel.
the hotel, he's played by Lance Reddick. His character's called Charon, who is one of the Greek deities in mythology, and they kind of changed him around a little bit because what was Charon? In this, he's kind of like a facilitator, like a gatekeeper, whereas I think in Greek mythology, Charon was one of the ferrymen,
Yeah.
who used to carry the souls across Hades. But he's not kind of that character in this. He's more of a Well, he's a concierge, isn't he? He kind of like
Yeah.
helps John out with his medic and, other things in the next film that I don't want to, spoil for you and shit like that. But yeah, so there is elements of kind of like a mythology going on, which shows a lot to kind of like, Greek characters and stuff like that, which is interesting because it just elevates the film beyond just like a normal actioner, even though it's a very, very well done actioner. When you add these kind of extra layers in with, the Greek mythology and the characters and all this kind of shit, it gives it a little bit more richness.
Yeah, you're right, actually. Yeah, and it's a bit more interesting as well. Well, it's interesting anyway from what you just said there.
Yeah, it makes it
Different
more
take on it.
rewatchable for me. And then on top of that, the look of the film, I think the film is absolutely stunning to look at. The use of colour, the use of the
Yeah,
lighting and stuff like that. I think it's an absolutely phenomenal looking film. This is like top tier cinematography. Where when you look at the guy who actually lensed the film, I think it's a guy called Jonathan Sealer. He's not really done anything of note before this film.
all right, right. It's just his first, basically,
No, it's not his first. He's worked on stuff beforehand, but nothing that struck me as a good looking
nothing on
film.
this level.
I mean, he's if I'm looking at his IMDb page, he was the cinematographer on was he a cinematographer? He worked on Soul Plane. Do you remember that?
Soul Plane. Go on and lie
Yeah.
to me. What's that one?
It came out of the cinema just before I left. It was like this.
Soul Plane.
I think Snoop Doggy Dogg was a fucking pilot on this purple plane, and it was just a really shitty kind of like looking comedy.
No, I don't recognise it.
Kevin Hart was in it. Roseanne's fella at the time.
Are you
Was in
sure
it.
that was when we was at the cinema? Because 2004, this.
I
Right?
think I was just leaving when this came out.
You left before me, and I had already gone in 2000, and I had already gone in 2004. So I don't recognise the post. I mean, it was,
I remember the trailers and definitely
must be the trailers then, because I don't recognise it. I mean, it must have bombed. It should have been rated 4.4 anyway.
Yeah, it wasn't a good film. He worked on The Girl Next Door. He worked on the Max Payne film with what's his name? Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah. What's his name again, Mike? Sorry.
Jonathan Sealer. Sela. If you're googling, but he also worked on A Good Day to Die Hard. Ugh.
Oh no.
Yeah, but everything just kind of like, for me, everything just works with this film. The lighting, the color, the use of color. Like whenever there's an intense color on the screen, and it's usually red or green, and there's usually a little bit of blue in there sometimes as well. That kind of indicates to me that when there's a very, very strong color, that indicates to me that's when the gods are going to war, kind of thing. Because it just changes the color palette and all that kind of shit.
Yeah, because when a film finished last night as well, I did actually think back to myself now. At the time, I was thinking, yeah, there was like a different, there was a different, like the color used in the film. It was
Yeah.
like blues, and there was like there was like greys in it as well, weren't there?
Yeah, I mean, for me, one of the best looking films of the last, let's just go with the last decade because we're in 2019. But one of the best looking films for me of the last 10 years was Skyfall, and Roger Deakins did the cinematography for Skyfall, and this for me stands like shoulder to shoulder with Skyfall with some of the shot selection and like the framing and the colours used in this film.
Is that the film after Casino Royale,
This was
or was it the one after that?
Casino Royale, then it was Quantum of Solace, then it was Skyfall,
That's the one, yeah.
then it was Spectre, yeah. So yeah, this stands shoulder to shoulder with like what he did on Skyfall.
Was he brought back for the sequel?
No, it's
No,
a different
no.
DP on the sequel, but the sequel looks just as good. They kind of
Oh, so they kept the same tone then. Good.
they keep the same tone, but they kind of everything in the sequel is kind of like upped to the next level, kind of
All
thing.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be interesting to watch now then.
Yeah, so like just the the amount of techniques that he uses in his fights and stuff like that, and how he integrates the weapon work and all that kind of shit. They just
Right.
they threw more tools into the box for the second film. Even though in this first film, I mean, I've got the film on in the background now, and it's just at the scene where he's just had the bag over his head and he's choking that guy out.
Oh, the Daniel Bernhardt.
Yeah, I mean, it looks to me, because he's using the shin behind the neck to choke the guy out, and it looks like because his hands are still shackled in this, so he's obviously got like the cuffs around the guy's neck,
Yeah.
and then he's using his shin behind the neck to choke the guy. So in a way, it's like a modified go-go platter in jiu-jitsu that he's using here, because he's rolled around to the back. So I think whenever you use a shin, it could be a go-go platter used to choke them out. But that's high-level shit. I don't train, but I know a few people who do, and I listen to a few podcasts for a lot more people who do, like Rogan. I listen to the Joe Rogan podcast. I watch UFC and kind of MMA all the time, kind of shit. So I'm familiar with certain things, but I don't know how to pull them off. But when I see them, I'm kind of like, that's high level, just because of the intricacies. And for them to put things like that in these films is just kind of like really interesting to watch, because I remember Joe Rogan was doing a podcast talking about Mel Gibson and in Lethal Weapon, and Mel Gibson was using some jiu-jitsu moves in Lethal Weapon when he was having the fight with Gary Busey, and he did some BJJ training, and Rogan was breaking it down. He was like, yeah, he's doing it, but he's not doing it well, kind of thing. So like when he was choking him out, I think he gets Mr. Joshua in a triangle, and Rogan, when he was watching, he was kind of like, bitch, there's so much room in there, there's no way that would choke him out. It's not tight, because he could see the gap between kind of like where his legs were crossing behind him and stuff like that. So he's like, no, the form's right, but the execution's wrong, kind of thing. But it looks to me in this like all the execution's 100% correct. So when I see little bits of like, technique and moves on stuff like this, which I'm familiar with, but not overly familiar. I'm not an expert, but I'm kind of familiar with shit like this just through what I watch. It kind of pleases me, because it kind of like, this looks real, as opposed to like 80s action films where, you punch someone and they go through 3 fucking walls, and each wall explodes into, rubble and shit like that, and it's like,
Yeah, correct. When I was watching the film as well, not as it compares in any way to like Ernie and Commando or anything like that, but when they're playing in the club when he's just taking out all the guys, headshots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was basically similar in a way to Commando with Ernie, because Ernie was running across, at the end when he's running across the grass and he's shooting.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that, when it like just a one-man gang, when it was just taking it all out.
And his gun doesn't need reloading or anything like that, and it's just fucking, he's got unlimited ammo, and like, every bullet shot just explodes the ground, or explodes like the concrete vases that the plants are in and stuff like that, and it's a one-man gang, but it's such a completely different tone, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of like I'd probably say it's like a Commando in the sense of it's a one-man gang, but also it's not the 80s cheese about it. It's got like a modern feel to it, and what I mean? It's like,
they've stripped it back. So at its heart, this is like an 80s action film where you've got an unkillable,
but a modern day.
But they've put a spin on it, haven't they? So they've kind of like updated it and stuff like that. So. Yeah, but that's what makes it so satisfying when I kind of watch it through the prism of that whole Greek mythology shit, and kind of like, John is, the boogeyman, he's a representative of shit like that.
Yeah, that's what they call him, isn't it? A boogeyman.
Yeah, babayaga, yeah. It's just so well done. And it's just going back to what I was saying about like the jiu-jitsu moves and stuff. I watched that Polar on Netflix last week. Put a little review on Facebook about it.
Oh yeah.
It was all right, but that's, drawing comparisons between that film and this film. That's kind of got its action moments and stuff as well. But the director just fucking, I wrote this in the Facebook review that I put on the group. The problem with that film is the editing, the direction and the editing is absolutely insane. Literally, there is a cut to a different shot or a different angle every second of that film. And I think there's only about 3 or 4 instances where the camera actually stays on a shot for longer than 1 second. It's fucking insane. It's like...
So it spoils the film.
Oh, it absolutely ruins the film. The longest shot that I counted, when I became aware of it, I was like, this is just jumping from shot to shot to shot to shot to shot to shot to shot.
Yeah, and you can tell.
Yeah.
But with John Wick, you can't tell at all, can you?
No, because the takes are longer. It's like, even in the action scenes, it's a good... Some action scenes are like 20, 30 seconds long. So you can see the choreography play out. And, when you can see the choreography play out in the fight, you can appreciate the actual skills of the guys that are involved in the choreography in the fight. And,
I agree.
When you see Keanu Reeves doing all that shit, you can appreciate the time and effort he put into actually doing all the training as well. Because it shows on screen. But, like, Mads Mikkelsen is like the main assassin guy in Polar. And, he's comparable to John Wick. He's like this feared kind of boogeyman of the assassin world. He's the one that they all want to kill kind of thing. And, he's obviously just as skilled and just as brutal or could be just as skilled and brutal as John Wick in this film. But you never get that sense of his power because in any of the fight scenes, it just cuts away too quickly. And he's doing shit. The editing. The editing just kind of like breaks it all up, so you can't really see what's happening, apart from one shot which kind of impressed me, which was towards the end of the film. Spoilers, but fuck it, it's not a great film, so who cares? He gets captured and he gets tortured, and he escapes from this torture room, and he has a scene where he's fighting his way out of this torture room along this corridor, like this concrete corridor, which is very similar to the corridor scene from what the fuck's it called?
What was that?
Oh, did a remake with it with Josh Brolin, where the guy fucks his daughter. What's it called? The Korean film. Old Boy.
Yeah.
Old Boy. So there's a corridor sequence in Old Boy, isn't there, where they're having that fight and he's just working his way along the corridor. It's one of the best action scenes you're ever going to see because it's all just in one shot in a corridor and you can see him going from the guy to guy to guy, and the choreography is immense. And there's a scene that tries to evoke that in Polar, where he's working his way through, and it's cut to shit apart from one scene where he's down on the floor and he's doing a little bit of kind of like grappling with this guy, and the guy's trying to roll him over, and Mads Mikkelsen actually puts his foot as... It's hard to describe without watching the scene, but he puts to stop the momentum of the guy flipping him over on the floor and getting the upper hand. He just puts his foot on the wall and kind of backheels himself off the wall in a really kind of slick move. And that little one shot was like, okay, he's obviously done some good fucking training here and worked it out with the stunt choreographer for this fight. But you just can't fucking see it because of the way they've edited around it. And it's just like, the skills are there and the time and the effort is there from the stunt crew and the actors involved, but you've just let him down by fucking cutting every fucking 15 shots every 5 seconds or something like that. It's
a shame.
It is, because
especially if he's done some training for that as well. If he's done a few months training and he can do it.
There's a good film in Polar, but it's just the editing just lets it down, and that and Matt Lucas's performance, because he's just... Someone said dial the crazy up to 11, and he's just gone the opposite way completely and not done hasn't done what was needed of him, because he feels like he's in the wrong fucking film. It was a weird little film.
He needs to go back to Little Britain.
Yeah, he felt like he was trying to act like one of the weirdos in Legal Gentlemen. That's what struck me about his character in that.
Right.
So yeah, it's a shame, because there could have been a good film in there if they just had someone who wasn't so content on trying to be flashy and showy with his editing and stuff. Yeah, disappointing.
Shame.
Real shame. Anyway, what else have we got?
Oh, we didn't touch on that as well, though, did we? Willem Dafoe's in this John Wick as well.
He is, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole cast is like people that you do recognise. They're not the biggest names, but they all kind of like have. They're all perfectly cast for me. It's like Willem Dafoe is just.
He's not in it that much, though, is he? Willem Dafoe.
He's not, but he's used just the right way, kind of thing. He's kind of like the father figure, isn't he, in a way. So I got the sense that he might have been the guy that trained John.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you could be right, yeah, because
he's protective over him. So he agrees
very protective, yeah.
Yeah, he agrees to take the contract on John's head.
$2 million,
because Vigo goes to him and says, will you kill John Wick? And he was like, yeah, I'll do it. And then he has a change of heart. And you don't know why he has a change of heart, but then he has this conversation with John underneath
the bridge,
the Brooklyn Bridge or whatever it is, and you can just feel there's a relationship between these two characters there. So maybe he was John's mentor in a way, trained him up.
Yeah, and when John Wick discovers that William Dafoe has been killed, spoilers. You can just tell his reaction on his face. He's just, you know what I mean? It's not as though, it's not a reaction like, oh, right, okay, forget it kind of thing.
Well, it's just little things.
It's like a reaction like he means something to me.
Yeah, he definitely means something to him because they make a big point of when John's going to bed, he puts things down on his bedside table. And after the dogs died, there's a shot.
Oh, the collar, yeah.
Yeah, there's a shot where he lays the collar down on his bedside table. Now, the shot where Willem Dafoe, or the scene where Willem Dafoe is taken back to his house, where they're going to torture and kill him. There's a shot where he takes his watch off, and he lays it down. He lays it down on a table.
Yeah, you're right.
And it's very, very similar to obviously the shot previous with the dog collar that John Wick does. So they've obviously got the same kind of like little idiosyncrasies and kind of like same little habits and stuff.
Yeah, maybe he trained John Wick.
Yeah, so that's
be right on that.
Yeah, that's where I come from on that one. It would have been nice to see him survive it, but I think he's just kind of like the final catalyst for John to actually,
tip him over the edge in it.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a few points in the film though that he could have taken John Wick out himself easy, for the money for the $2 million.
There is
when he was in the hotel there and he was on the bed and he sat there and he thought, "Is he going to get it?" And then that girl came in and attacked.
Yeah.
Well, he waited, didn't he? Because he knew she was coming. He shot the pillar to give him the heads up.
To wake him up. Yeah. There's a few points where John could have actually, been taken out, but again, that line with the barmaid where he's gone back into the Continental for the first time in like 5 years, and the barmaid's like, "I've never seen you like this before," and he's like what? And she's like vulnerable. And just that one little kind of interaction between the two, that he's kind of, as good as he is, he's not at his best because he's vulnerable because he's emotional.
Yeah.
So that
she could tell that, yeah.
Yeah, she could tell that. So that kind of informs how he gets captured. When Vigo captures him and, he gets him in the church and the bag's put over his head and all that kind of stuff. I think if John wasn't acting irrationally and emotionally, he wouldn't have been in that situation to begin with, kind of thing, because he's that good. Do you know what I mean? But it all feeds into the character, doesn't it? Little bits like that. So it's just kind of like really clever storytelling, and like when they're in the when Iosif is in the pool and John's stalking him and he's killing all of the guys around him, and John
his son's in the pool,
yeah, Iosif, or Joseph, if you, but we're going with the Russian pronunciation or whatever it is. John sees him in the pool and he lifts the gun up and he has a shot on him.
And he doesn't take it.
He doesn't take it because he wants to be up close. Because just before that, if you remember, he takes out a guy in the dressing room, doesn't he? And he stabs him in the fucking jaw. The pencil like upwards into his head through the jaw.
Yeah.
And he just stares at him as the guy slides down the wall, doesn't he? He just he like stare, really cold stare. Like I've just killed you. I've just ended your life, and I'm gonna stare into your eyes to watch the soul leave your body. And and he slides down. And I think the reason he doesn't pull the trigger with at that moment with the Iosif is because he wants to get up close and personal, and he wants to see Iosif die. And he makes a mistake in that moment because he doesn't pull the trigger, and Iosif gets away because he escapes from that point, doesn't he?
Well, that's where they watch him, like cameras in it, and they're like, "Oh, he's here." And Daniel Bernhardt character comes down, and a few more of like the goons turn up as well.
Yeah.
And just
and what I love about that is like that moment where he doesn't pull the trigger on Iosif and he lets him get away. He learns from that mistake. When he gets the next time that he's in a position to kill Iosif in the warehouse after he's sniped all the guys out there playing on the Xbox and shit.
Oh yeah.
He walks up to him and he shoots him. He doesn't hesitate the second time. He leaves no room for a second mistake. He just walks up to him and he just fucking shoots him and ends him that time because he knows he let him get away the first time. And I fucking love that about this. Yeah, because it's kind of like there's absolutely no explanation.
Yeah, it's kind of one of them, isn't it? You've got away from me once, my mistake. I'm not making the same mistake twice.
Yeah,
she's dead. That's it, gone.
Yeah, and some people probably won't even think about shit like that. But that kind of thing where the directors and the writer, however that was written on the page, that was obviously there to begin with, kind of thing. And even though they don't make it obvious, when you just sit and watch it again, and you kind of like, yeah, I get why. I get why he just shoots him the second time.
Yeah.
Because in a revenge film, normally your hero, as an audience member, you want the hero to have that conversation. You killed my wife. That's why I'm here for you now. Because it kind of gives you closure on the story. Do you know what I mean?
Doesn't he, just thinking back to it, doesn't he say something like, when he shoots him, just before he shoots him, doesn't he starts saying something like, it was only a fucking, and he shoots him. Yeah. He's going to say dog, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Because he thinks it's all about the dog.
Yeah, he thinks it's about the dog. And like any other film of this type, he'd be like, it wasn't just a dog. That dog meant something to me. But he's already said that to Vigo. He said that to his dad, when he's saying, now I'm thinking I'm back.
Yeah.
So, there's no more words needed. He just fucking walks up to him and shoots him and then walks away and he's like, that's it, game over now. Because you're not the focus to me anymore. The focus is Vigo, because Vigo's just made it personal. He's just killed my mentor.
Yeah, well, that was probably another thing on his mind, didn't it? Because maybe he thinks, well, if I killed you the first time instead of hesitating, then maybe my mentor might still be alive now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's the thing. So
that's at that point where he just shoots Iosif, he's kind of like, my focus. I'm done with you now. You're nothing to me anymore. You're dead. I've done what I needed to do with you. Now I need to go and avenge someone else.
Yeah, go and get your daddy.
Go and get your dad. And it's interesting as well because that Movies with Mikey video points it out. The bit where he's going after Vigo at the end in the docks, there's lightning flashes coming down from the clouds.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
And that Movies with Mikey video points it out. It's like because Zeus or Winston has pointed him in the direction. Normally he's hands off. He's like, I have to remain neutral. I can't tell you or get involved. Or
yeah, because did he phone him up and he said like, such a body is getting on a plane at such a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, okay, and then we're off then.
Which, for someone who's being neutral, he told him where Iosif was. He sent the drink to John with the barmaid with the red circle written on the napkin.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's the thing with the Greek gods. They influenced, they didn't get involved directly, but they influenced, and that's kind of what Winston does in this film. He points John in the direction, and then whatever happens kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, even though he keeps saying, I'm not involved, he clearly is through his influence. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good scene as well, though. The woman in it as well, who was tackling John Wick in the hotel.
Yeah.
When Winston, he phoned her up, didn't he, or something like that, and then next scene, she arrives at this meeting place, and then there's about 5 or 6 walks, and you just shoot her dead.
Yeah, for killing the guy in the Continental, because she's obviously broken the rules of the Continental.
Oh, was it Frank or something? Was it called or something? Francis or something?
Something like that. Yeah. But yeah, just going back to the lightning strikes, that Mikey, he points out that those lightning strikes are to show which side of the battle that John Wick, that he's on. You know, because obviously Zeus was the god of thunder, wasn't he? Or
Yeah,
lightning. Yeah.
but that's the
So
thing. Though, there was no need to throw the lightning in there, were there?
no.
If
So
the scene could work without the lightning, but being in,
it
so it's
could, but it just kind of like it shows that he's had the influence and you know which side
yeah,
of the battle he's on, which is really kind of like really subtle but really nice touch. And I didn't pick up on that until after I watched that video, and I was like, "Fucking hell!" There's some high level shit going on for such a dumb action film,
yeah.
you
There's
know?
more stuff on behind the scenes, isn't there? That's the
Yeah,
thing.
and it's very general kind of like stuff, but it's layered into the film so well that it's kind of like you know. Um, like I say, just like I said before, it just gives it that richness and you know a little bit more edge than what most action films
Action
have
films,
nowadays.
yeah,
Yeah, you wouldn't expect it going into this film, but
sets it apart, yeah.
yeah, um,
It's one of them, though, isn't it? 'Cause it's a bit. It starts off a bit bizarre because it starts off and he's already injured when he turns up right at the start of the film. He turns up in the car and he's already been through the wars and he's bleeding and stuff, and he passes out on the floor and then it's like right, okay, and then you get the whole flashback, don't you, to what's previously happened,
yeah,
and then you go back to the start of the film, back to the start, and he wakes up, don't he, after he's collapsed with his message on his phone from his wife who's passed away.
yeah,
Um, and it's kind of like that setting in it where the film just takes off from there.
yeah. So I mean, from the opening shot where he crawls out of that car injured, you know, once it cuts back and starts showing, you know, whatever it is, like you almost expect a title card saying 48 hours earlier or whatever it is.
Yeah,
But you know because of like how the state that he's in at that point where he crawls out of the car, you know the shit's gonna go down. You know stuff's gonna get fucking brutal. Because we're
things
already
on
at the end, at the beginning, but we're already at the
yeah,
end.
that's what I was getting to.
Yeah,
But you already know we're going to go through some shit in this film because
yeah,
he's fucked up at the start of the film. Right at that start though, when he passes out,
yeah. And that's
there's
that's another thing. It's kind of like as good as like John is at killing people, he gets hurt a lot in
yeah,
this film. He
yeah,
kind of
he's not
like
invincible.
no, he's not invincible at all. Even though he comes across as being very invincible, but he gets cut, he gets shot, he gets stabbed. You know, he gets thrown off that balcony, like I
Yeah,
say, and
it's
when he
staple himself back
lands,
together.
that's the thing with that. Yeah, that's what the doctor does. When he lands off that balcony hit, he lands on his gun, and you can see his back arch up in the pain of it, kind of thing, and it's fucking brutal.
Yeah, that's one solid fall. That when I
Yeah.
watched that, I was like, oh fucking hell, you know what I mean? It was
But he
just
kind of
brilliant.
it's weird because like at the end of the film where he's fighting Vigo, in a way that pain he wants that pain because Vigo's got a knife and they're kind of like grappling, and at one point he stops Vigo from stabbing him, doesn't he? And then he looks down at the knife and he's like, whatever, and he just takes the knife into himself. He lets Vigo stab him so he can break his arm.
Ah, yeah,
You know,
yeah, he
so
does.
in a way he wants that pain. He wants that relief, and he's like, "Oh fuck it, I'm gonna let him stab him. If I die, I die, but I'm gonna fucking make sure I kill him first." I think that's why he just lets him stab him, so he can break his arm and fucking, you know, do what he does to kill him. And then they both look at each other, and I think John's accepting to the point that I'm gonna die here because there's a shot where he's got his hands on his side and he's bleeding out, and then he just kind of moves his hands away to let himself bleed out. And then they both look at each other and just say, "Be seeing you." You know, as if they're going to see
Yeah,
each other in hell or wherever, you know.
yeah,
And then John just walks off as if to say, right, I'm gonna, you know, go off to die, kind of thing.
mm.
And then he wakes up. So really good kind of like storytelling and fucking writing in this film.
Yeah. It's a good film. It's definitely a one of the best films I've seen recently. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, really good film. Really enjoyed it. Did you pick up on no, the security guard as well at the was it the Continental?
I did. I was just going to bring that up then.
Yeah,
Just to
it's
say, yeah, Kevin Nash.
Kevin Nash. Yeah,
Yeah, so there's a couple others as well around there. So he has that little chat with Kevin Nash, and Kevin Nash is like, see you later.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks for letting me live. I'm just gonna go over here, have a smoke, and you go in and do whatever you want. There's also a couple of other guys in the club fight scene. The guy with the bald head that he grabs the beard with, and slams down onto the table before fucking shooting him in the head. That's a guy called Tate Fletcher. Tate Fletcher is an MMA fighter.
All right, yeah.
Who was in The Ultimate Fighter. He's quite a good friend of Joe Rogan, trains in jiu-jitsu and stuff. He's done a load of... He was turned up in Westworld. He's done loads of stuff recently because he's just got that kind of like thuggish look about him.
Is he still in UFC now? Is he?
No. He was like on one of the early seasons of The Ultimate Fighter. I think it was like 2 or 3 back in the day.
What, in the 90s of this, was it?
No, it would have been early 2000s. I think Ultimate Fighter was like 2003 onwards. So, yeah, he didn't win the Ultimate Fighter, and I don't think he ever fought in the UFC. But he trains, and you know he's known as like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But one of the guys who also turns up is a guy called Keith Jardine. The Dean of Mean, Keith Jardine. He did fight in UFC.
So there's a few in this, isn't there?
Yeah, and also Kenny Florian's in there, but I don't think he's credited.
What is he? Is he in the club?
He's in the locker room. He's the guy that gets taken out when the fella's washing his face and these.
Oh, is it him in the background? Yeah, in the mirror.
Yeah, that's a guy called Kenny Florian, Ken Flo.
Right.
Which is a bit weird because I thought Kenny Florian would have had a fight scene, because he's a fighter, but he doesn't. He just gets dispatched straight away. So
easy.
Yeah, not even a speaking role. He's just fucking out of there quick as you like. Yeah. So yeah, quite a few familiar faces if you pop up if you're familiar with MMA or jiu-jitsu and stuff like that.
Was the policeman? The policeman at the start? He turned up in his house and he knocks on his door. And
Jimmy.
Jimmy, yeah, and he's like, all right, Jimmy, and he's like, yeah, all right, John. And the neighbours are complaining about the noise, and he's like, oh, you're busy, and he just, right, okay, I'll leave you to it, and he books off. And that's another thing, innit? You know that the police obviously are aware of John Wick, and they know he's badass.
Or if not the police, at least Jimmy's aware of it, because he's just kind of like, okay, have a good evening, just tips the hat and fucking walks away. He's like, I want no part of this whatsoever because I'm just not prepared for it.
And there's that part in the when he's fighting the woman in the hotel, and the guy which we mentioned his name, is it Frank or Francis or something like that, and he sees him there, and he says John, and he's like, oh, I Frank or Francis, whatever his name is, and he's like, oh yeah, you're all right, yeah, you're okay for doing what was it now? Did he say? He asked him to look after her, or something, and
Harry, the guy's name is.
Is it Harry?
Yeah.
Hey, Harry, yeah.
Kevin Nash character says Francis. There you go.
Oh, right then. Yeah, but he doesn't. Does he speak? Yeah, he does speak. He speaks Russian, doesn't he, Kevin Nash?
But all those kind of like little interactions between like side characters, that all builds the history and of John and what's going on. He's a known
badass.
Yeah, he's a known entity around here.
He's a killer.
You don't fuck with him. It's just everything about it. I love the look of it. I love the sound of it because the soundtrack's really good as well. Especially in the club, that music where it's just kind of like beating, doom, and it's just driving the kind of action forward.
Yeah,
even the gunshots. If you go back and rewatch it, the gunshots are kind of like laced into the actual beats of the music. So yeah, the music choreography is on point with the actual gun firing and stuff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, every kind of like gun, like every bang from the gun, every shot is kind of like on the beat of the actual music, in time to the music. It's just fucking awesome.
See, I didn't pick up on that last night because I was just glued to it. You know what I mean? Picking up on the other things like that. But yeah, I'm gonna go back and probably.
It's just so well
rewatch it. I think just for that.
So well done.
The club scene as well. It reminded me a little bit of Blade. The club scene in Blade. Not that there's any blood or anything.
Yeah, I kind of get where you're going with that.
But the tone of music.
Yeah.
Dum like.
Yeah. I get where you're going with that. When he said it instantly, I was kind of like, yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah. There's obviously a bit of a callback as well to the Matrix. Another callback to the Matrix as well. I didn't pick up on it, but I read it online before that in his house somewhere it says Neo.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, somewhere in his house. I don't know. Do you know when he's? I don't know if it's in that. You know, he's in basement and it's the sledgehammer and he breaks the floor. Forget his guns were hidden under the floor. I don't know if it's
Right,
in there
okay.
somewhere. Yeah. It says Neo somewhere. I don't know if it's on a computer screen or a key or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I must have missed that. It would make sense if it's on the computer screen, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's
Does
like the first thing that you see in the Matrix is like the little thing on the computer screen where it's like "Wake up, Neo."
yeah.
Yeah.
Does his reg plate mean anything on his Mustang?
I don't think so.
Mm.
No, I've not come across anything that. Um,
No,
no.
if it's if it's the initials for something else. So
I
I
know.
don't
I
know.
know. When I was reading up, that the Mustang is that he drives is not the Mustang that it's supposed to be.
Mm.
Because it's too big to read out here, and I don't know enough about cars to get into it. But the model of the car doesn't match up with the year that the car was made or something like that.
Yeah, I think I
Um,
read that actually. Yeah.
yeah. So if anyone's interested, if you go to the IMDb and look on the trivia, it's in there. It tells you something about the Mustangs. Um, yeah. What else?
I think I've covered everything I want to cover.
Yeah. Apparently he kills 77 people in the course of this film, which isn't a bad body count for a single guy. 119 people in total die, but John is responsible for 77 of them. So,
Or the guy who played his son, his real name is Alfie Allen.
Alfie Allen, who is the
Yeah,
brother to Lily Allen.
that's
And
it. Yeah,
yeah, if anyone is familiar with Game of Thrones, which I'm sure quite a few people will be, they'll know Alfie Allen already, mate, because he's quite a prevalent character in Game of Thrones.
yeah.
He plays Theon Greyjoy, or Reek, who is kind of like a snivelling little arsehole in that as well. So again,
He's good at playing that character, isn't he?
yeah, perfectly cast. But I didn't know that it was Alfie Allen was actually Lily Allen's brother until I saw the movies with Mike video. So yeah,
Yeah, he was also in Space as well.
he
I think he must have only had a small part in that.
yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, he was Internet Movie Database. He's credited as skateboarder.
Oh right, okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
But recently he was in The Predator.
he was in the Predator.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. That's where I recognised him from.
yeah. He was one of the
That,
crazies, wasn't
yeah,
he? Yeah. One
he's
of the
good at
things
playing.
I found interesting about it when I was reading into it is that the guy who wrote this wrote John Wick, um, Derek Kolstad, I think his name is.
Yeah,
The film was originally called, or the script was originally called Scorn, and the John Wick character, who he named after his grandfather, by the way. So John Wick is actually the writer's grandfather's real name. The main character was supposed to be like in his 60s or 70s, like a retired assassin kind of thing.
yeah,
And the dog that died was like an old dog that he'd had for like 18 years before it was killed. So obviously they changed that around and made it a puppy, and changed John's age a little bit,
mm.
quite considerably, because he envisioned him as like this old, grey-haired man that had been out of the business for a while. But I think in changing that to John had retired for a completely different reason. Obviously, it gives
settle down. Yeah,
it gives it the film a driving force, because it's kind of like, yeah, the murder of an 18-year-old dog that you've had for a while, yeah, it's good enough, but it's not quite as good as the dog being a proxy for the love and relationship of a dead wife.
yeah,
And it just kind of like, again, it just turns it up just a little bit more and gives him an even greater reason to go and fucking exact
yeah. Just a different
furious
twist on it. Yeah.
vengeance. Yeah.
But how old is John Wick supposed to be in this? Would you say he's about Keanu Reeves' age, in his mid-50s?
It's one
Because
of the,
he's been retired, I gathered 4 or 5 years, hasn't he?
yeah.
Since he came out of it.
That's the thing with Keanu though, because I mean you've got all these memes of Keanu Reeves where he doesn't age. And he does seem perpetually young, so I don't think they're probably playing him as old as like he actually is in his 50s. I think they're probably playing it between
40s.
mid-40s or something like that. Because you look at Keanu Reeves and he doesn't look like a 50. What is he now? 54.
Yeah. Well, how old's his wife? She must be about. She's not that. She's about. She must be mid-40s in real life.
She looks in a well, yeah, but again,
Mid-40s.
she's a model, so she can play younger easily. 54 Keanu Reeves is now. Bridget. Let's have a look how old she is.
46, 47.
47, yeah. Yeah, but she would have been 42 at the time of it, so, not too far away from her 30s. Like I say, this was 5 years old, isn't it? So
Yeah, it is true, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd probably say he's probably... John Wick, he must be in mid-40s, I'd say.
I'd say mid-40s, and I'd say, like, she's around about a similar age to him kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but... I'm kind of glad that they made that change, like I say, because immediately by putting like Keanu Reeves in there, you kind of like get all of his like history with action, especially his connotation or connection, I should say, with the Matrix films. There, all the kind of like all of his experience from the action film kind of world comes into.
And it's always like kung fu, karate style and stuff.
Yeah,
all his training he's done.
Yeah. What else have I got? Oh, the only other kind of like visual flourish that I've made a note of here is like the scene where so John's actually chasing before the fight scene in the club starts. John is kind of like following Iosif, who's running away in his towel through the nightclub.
Oh yeah.
And there's a shot where there's like a big kind of LCD screen behind John, which has kind of got concentric rings, like black and white rings, kind of like, coming towards him.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like they're framing him as within a halo kind of thing. I don't know if that was purposeful or not, but also the way that the actual circles are kind of like, when you go back and watch it again, just kind of like watch it, because those circles, those rings on the screen look like they're kind of like coming at you. In the same way that John is going at Iosif kind of thing. It's just kind of like, yeah. I don't know why I put that down. I just thought it's an interesting visual flourish against the background of reds and greens in the nightclub, that this black and white concentric circles, which are kind of just, literally almost hypnotizing in the way that they're actually coming towards you at the screen. It just, I think, there was just something about that was like...
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if it's been thrown in for... There's a nod to something, or it means something anyway, because when you said before about the lightning and you said about like the demigods and all that stuff, maybe it's in there for a reason.
Yeah, possibly.
To tie in with all that, I don't know.
Who knows?
But just going back to Kevin Nash, well, this is the second film that Kevin Nash has played a Russian, from what I know anyway, because the first time he played a Russian was in The Punisher, the very first one.
Oh, right, okay.
John Travolta, but I don't think he actually had I don't think he spoke in that. I think he just had a bit of a tussle with The Punisher, and then I don't think he actually spoke, from what I remember.
Interesting, because I didn't think his Russian accent was that bad. I thought it was okay. I thought it was decent enough.
Yeah. Well, when I watched it, because obviously I'm big on my wrestling, and you were back. I don't know if you still are, but back in them days, you were when we was at the cinema. You used to watch it as well. I used to watch it then at the time, and when I watched it last night, I thought, I'm sure that's Kevin Nash. I'll have to double check it, but I'm sure because he was so tall and stuff like that, and he looked as though he'd put a bit of weight on in the face.
Yeah. 100%.
And then I thought, that I'm sure that's him anyway. When he started speaking Russian, I thought, I'll have to check it. So anyway, I checked. I thought, it is him. Yeah. Maybe he put a bit of weight on for the role or something like that. I don't know.
I think he's just put a bit of weight on with life, mate, because he's got grey hair and just getting older and kind of like widening out a little bit. But,
I think he's... Well, I follow him on Instagram, and he's been working out recently, and he's slim right down now.
Is he making a comeback or something?
No, he can't. I think he's got dodgy knees now. I don't think he can make a comeback in the ring. I think he's still associated with wrestling He make appearances and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't think he can. He's in ring. I don't think he can wrestle anymore. His knees are fucked.
Yeah.
But yeah, he looks in better shape now than what he did back in the day when he was wrestling.
Oh, really? Well, yeah, he was one of those that just kind of like relied on his size to get by, didn't he? So.
Yeah, yeah.
The one guy that we haven't really mentioned very much is the guy who plays Vigo, Michael Nyquist. He's actually a Swedish actor, and you will know him from... Well, you won't know him from because you've not watched the fucking films, but he was
Mission
one
Impossible.
he was one of the bad guys in Ghost Protocol film, and he was also in the original Millennium series of films.
Lance Henriksen.
No,
Is it that?
the girl with the dragon tattoo ones.
Awesome.
Yeah, those.
I thought you meant the TV series, that Millennium TV series.
I might have done that on purpose, just to be a cunt, but no,
Yeah.
no, because those are known as the Millennium trilogy. Those films.
So
Yeah.
he was in the original 3, not the Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig played his character in
Right, I get it.
So he was Mikhail Blomqvist in the original films with.
Did he ever appear in Game of Thrones? Because he has like a Game of Thrones look about him. Or...
No,
No?
not that I'm aware of. But he died a couple of years back. I think he only died like 2
Oh,
years
has he
ago.
passed?
Yeah,
Has he passed
yeah.
away? All right.
Yeah, because I was a bit surprised with that.
Ah.
Lung cancer, it says here. 56. Shit ways to go. Yeah, rest in peace. Cool guy. I like him in the Dragon Tattoo series. I think he's decent. He was a decent enough antagonist in Mission Impossible, and obviously with John Wick, I liked him as Vigo. It was his idea to like be smoking a joint after he'd kind of given his son up, because he tells John where Iosif was. In a bargain. So he's like, if I tell him where you are, will you let me live? And
because John Wick had him there, and then in one shot he'd be gone.
Yeah, so he tells him, and then like he knows he's just given his son up, kind of thing, and so he's just kind of like sat at his office desk, and it was his idea to be smoking a spliff, kind of thing, just to kind of give his character something to do. Upon reflection of giving his son up. But, I mean, it's his own fault, because it's just kind of like his own hubris. It's kind of like, he knows his son's done wrong, but he's kind of like trapped between a rock and a hard place. He's kind of like, he's my son. I know he's a twat. I don't really want to give him up because he's my son, even though I know if I do give him to John, it'll not have the consequences, because John's got the power to bring his entire empire crumbling down, and that's essentially what he does.
That's what he does. Yeah, when he burns all that money in that in the church.
Yeah. So it's kind of like he has to deal with the consequences there. So, any other little bits of trivia? Because I'm kind of coming to the end of my notes here.
I think I'm pretty much done now.
Yeah. So, obviously, like I say, this was my pick, and this is, in my opinion, one of the greatest action films ever. Easily. Just because of the look of the film, the sound of the film, everything that's gone into making the film, all the
training.
The
training
time
as well.
and effort that was put into it. And I think it is right up there with anything that you can throw at me from the action genre. This is for me, it's an action masterpiece without a doubt.
Yeah, 2 thumbs up, definitely 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, I would say like one of the greatest action films of all time is Terminator 2: Judgment Day. I think this is pretty much up there. It's in the same stratosphere as that film for action, for me at least.
Yeah.
I hold it in that higher regard. If you haven't already seen it, why not?
You won't regret it anyway, because obviously it took me a few years to watch it. Now I've watched it, now I'm hooked, and I want to see the sequel.
Yeah. If you haven't watched it, why would you be listening to a podcast on it? Go and watch it, and then come back and listen to the podcast. But
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, we've kind of spoiled the shit out of it, so it's a bit late to be saying that now.
Yeah, good. Yeah, this is the pick. I think that it's the first film I think you picked what I've not actually seen.
I think so. Yeah, because every other film that we've picked or discussed so far, we've both been aware of it and we've both seen it because they've been like an older film, and I thought that would be good to go with something a little bit more recent, and I was surprised when you hadn't seen it actually. actually. So I was kind of like, this could go one or two ways. He actually really enjoys it, or doesn't get anything out of it.
Well,
So.
it's like when I said to you off mic as well, when I was with Pop, excuse me, my plan was to watch it on Sunday night after we got back from the circus.
Yeah.
But it was too late at night, and we didn't get home till about 8 o'clock at night or something like that. I could have put it on, but I thought I'm not in the frame of mind. I'm knackered now and been a long day and stuff like that. So I thought I'll watch it on Monday. So Monday came around Monday night, and then I was knackered from Sunday circus still, and knackered from work. So I thought I'll watch it Tuesday, and we're recording today being Wednesday. So I'm going to have to get it watched before Wednesday. So right, Tuesday night it is. And so it's all fresh in my mind still. So I'm glad really I didn't watch it a week or two before. And because it, you know what I mean, obviously I would have forgotten a lot of stuff. So it was still fresh in my mind. But yeah, definitely 2 thumbs up with this. Awesome. Good shout. Good shout, Mike, for picking it.
Awesome. Well, hopefully you'll enjoy John Wick 2.
Yeah, we're going to cover that, aren't we?
We will be covering that soon. Hopefully we can squeeze that in before John Wick 3 comes out. It's because it's weird because they called John Wick 2, John Wick Chapter 2, but they've called John Wick 3 Parabellum. It's like, well, why not call it Chapter
John
3?
Wick, yeah, the final chapter maybe.
Yeah.
If they're going in that way.
I don't understand why they put Chapter 2 in there and then decided to name like John Wick 3 Parabellum. But, I'm sure there's all will become clear. I just hope it holds up to, like, I really like the second one as well. I know some people were a bit sniffy and said it wasn't as good as the first, but I think it takes what was established in the first and doubles down on the world building.
Yeah.
Because that's not something we've really touched upon. We've mentioned that there is a history with John and stuff like that, but there's obviously a history and kind of like a hierarchy with, the world of the assassins, the criminal underbelly and stuff like that with the Continental Hotel and, the use of the gold coins for, not so much as currency, but the use of gold coins as...
favours in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, favours or like a rite of passage. He
Yeah.
puts one into a slot in the door and then he's granted access to the nightclub and stuff like that. So there's a lot of kind of world building going on that's kind of just under the surface. It's not overt, but in the second film, that world building kind of like blows up in a big bad way. They expand the law and the kind of the world. And the stage as well because of where it takes place. I don't want to give anything away because you've not seen it, but just where it takes place and stuff like that. Everything's kind of like expanded upon in a really kind of organic and natural way. Because that's what bugs me about some sequels. It's kind of like when it comes to films, the thing that bugs me the most is when studios or whoever are that intent or preoccupied with creating a franchise that they forget that they need to make a good film first. They're that busy planning for the third and fourth and fifth films that they neglect the first film, and then the first film is not as good as what it should be, so you never get to the fourth, fifth and sixth film.
Yeah, know what you mean.
Whereas with John Wick, it feels to me like they've concentrated on making a good film that stands alone on its own. And if this was the only film in the series, I would be overjoyed.
Yeah.
Yes, I want another one, but I'm more than happy with what I've got. And then they take a sequel, and they just build upon kind of like the foundations that were laid down in the first film. There's little bits in there that I'm sure they've kind of planned in a way with the second film, but they've not done it at the expense of kind of like putting a to be continued at the end of the first film. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, massive recommendation from me on this one. One of my all-time favourites. So, yeah. Next film is your choice. We might as well announce what it's going to be, even though we have got something else lined up as well. But what is your pick for your next choice?
Yeah, my next pick is Labyrinth. It's a childhood favourite film of mine, dating back from since the very first time I watched it. Probably like in the mid-80s or something, late 80s was the first time I watched it. Stars David Bowie there with his bulge. We can't miss that, can we?
Yeah, David
Yeah.
Bowie, Jennifer Connelly, and lots of puppets and Muppet. Well, they're not Muppets, but the
Yeah.
puppets and creations from Jim Henson's Creature Workshop. So, yeah, looking forward to revisiting this.
Has it been a while since you watched it yourself, mate?
I think I watched it last year. I think I remember saying I watched it last year when I got the Blu-ray copy. So, yeah, but it's one of those that I've seen countless times, God knows how many times. So yeah, looking forward to going back and watching it with a more critical eye, so we can sit down and talk about it and talk about our experiences of it. So yeah, Labyrinth is going to be our next pick. But we also have, hopefully next week, we're going to be sitting down with our second guest, Chris Manning.
Ginger Ninja.
The Ginger Ninja himself. For people who don't know, we used to work. Obviously, if you listen to this podcast, you know me and Lee used to work at the Warner Village Cinema in Pilsworth a good few years back. But Chris was also one of our fellow colleagues and fellow nerds that we used to, just instead of working, just piss around and talk about films all day. So I've not spoken to Chris for a long time. We lost touch, so it'll be good to sit down and have a catch up with him. And this is kind of a joint. And normally, if we're going to have guests on, I'd let them pick the film. But I was quite happy when Chris decided to pick this one because I'm a massive fan of the film series anyway. So Chris has decided to pick Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, which was on at the cinema at the time that we were working. So I'm looking forward to delving back into that and
chewing the fat on it.
Definitely, yeah, because I'm sure he will remember. My memory is terrible when it comes to, because me and you have had conversations where you talk, do you remember this and do you remember this, and I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
15 years have passed, so I don't remember any of that shit that you just said, and then like half an hour later I'll be like, actually, yeah, I do remember it. But so I'm sure Chris is going to have some kind of like revelations and some old stories to remind me of. And then obviously we need to sit down and talk about the film as well because.
So this one might be the longest episode we've done. This one.
Christ, yeah. My aim is for it not to be as long as the film. So.
Wait, but the extended version.
Well, yeah, either or, because I mean, you in between 3 hours and 4 hours there. So, yeah, hopefully we can keep it at a manageable kind of length. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. So I'm not sure on the kind of like release, which one will come first. I'm thinking. Well, I don't know. Like I say, I don't know.
So it's going to be either Labyrinth or Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Well, technically, the next release is going to be The Craft. That'll already be out by the time that you hear this. But yeah, so we've got Labyrinth up next, which is Lee's awesome next pick. And then we have our second guest coming in the coming weeks. So keep your eyes out peeled for that. Also,
I just want to give a shout out to Dean, who joined us for the Craft episode from Junk Cancel podcast. It was good having him on with it because it was the first time we've had like a freeware, so to put it, on the podcast. Yeah, and it was good to get him on there. Actually, have a chat with him because I think it's the first time you've recorded with him.
Yeah.
Have you nothing on the Get to the Chopper with him now?
I don't think so. No, I think most of the ones that I've been on Get to the Chopper with has been like with yourself and
Damien and Fergus.
Been on a couple, and I think I've been on a few with Fergus from Manchester Classic Film. Also, Fergus, let us know if you've got the big screen for Terminator 2 because I need to book some tickets. So yeah, I want to go and watch Terminator 2 again. And so does my mate. So, but I believe they're sold out at the moment because they're waiting to get
upgraded. Yeah, didn't he mention that on with Andy the other week?
He did, yeah. But I've not heard anything else. So, Fergus, pull your finger out, sunshine. I need to buy tickets.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give this one a miss though, mate. The Terminator one, purely because I watched Terminator 2 in 3D only the other year when it was on a cinema.
I skipped it in 3D. I didn't think it needed a 3D.
No,
re-release.
well, the annoying thing with that is when we watched it, we all sat down there and the film starts out, and you know it's in the future right at the start of the film, and they're taking on the Terminators and stuff like that. And I thought this is going to be pretty cool. This in 3D. This bit here with all the lasers, and the shooting and blasting.
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And it weren't tuned in. It weren't focused right.
Oh no.
So I was like, oh no. So I looked at my mate, and my mate looked at me and said, oh, what's going on, kind of thing. And then as he were going to get up for run down and tell the staff, about 5 people just run down the cells. Random people just ran down quick for tell the staff get it tuned in. So obviously we missed that future scene there in 3D, and then after that, the rest of the film didn't really warrant 3D. You know what I mean? It was a bit like no.
I'll never forget watching Star Trek at Pillsworth. Star Trek First Contact when that came out. Was it First Contact or was it
the one with the Borg?
It might have been Insurrection. It was one of them. Either or, and it was in Screen 1 at Pillsworth, and I went as a paying customer and watched it, and it was quite busy. All of the Trekkers were out in force, because I think I went on opening weekend, and it was out of focus when it started. So what had happened is, like when the trailers play, the trailers are formatted usually in 1:85, so what we used to call flat. And for anyone who's wondering what I'm talking about, if you've got a widescreen TV, the aspect ratio on your widescreen TV that you're looking at the moment is 1:185, and that's what we would call flat. A movie that is shown with, say you put a Blu-ray in or a DVD, and then you get the black bars on your widescreen TV. That movie is shot in an aspect ratio of 1:235, and that's what we would call scope or cinema scope. And most trailers back then were shot in the flat aspect ratio, same as your TV. And then the lens would have to change when the movie came on if the movie was not shot in the flat aspect ratio.
Yeah.
It would change to a different lens to show, the full screen in 1:235. And what had happened is in this showing, the lens hadn't changed over, so it was showing the wrong aspect ratio, what we called out of rack, I think it was. And literally the entire screen of Trekkers or Trekkies, whatever you want to call them, they all were like, focus, literally just screaming, all screaming, and no one would get up and go out and just say, there's a problem with the screen, can you sort it out, please? They all just were content to sit in their fucking seats, like the lazy cunts that they were, popcorn on lap, drink in hand, and just shout as if that was magically going to change it. So I had to get up and go out and just say, excuse me, there's something wrong on the screen in Screen 1. And then whoever it was on the gate, got the radio and just radioed up to projection. And I went back into the screen and it was fixing itself as I was going back in. But it always struck me, it's kind of like, you lazy bastards, get off your fat fucking asses and just go and... No, there were just literally like 200 people in the screen there just fucking shouting, as if that was going to fix the problem. So it always
they must think that projection is just watched from the little window at the top kind of thing.
Yeah, and well, whoever was on projection that day, I don't want to cast any, because we know one or two of them. But they weren't obviously doing their job.
We'll say it with Tony.
We'll blame Tony. Yeah. Well,
probably changing a light bulb somewhere.
The buck stops with the top man, doesn't it? So it's kind of like all of that. So.
He probably sat having a coffee in office or something. With Kath.
Yeah, more than likely chewing the fat with Kath. Going back to Dean as well. Obviously giving him a shout out there. Dean, you will be happy to know that I've gone back and listened to your Dirty Dancing episode now. I did quite enjoy it. You were right. The music is actually quite good. It's a decent soundtrack. But
with his little funny comments coming in as well. Yeah, himself.
Yeah. So if anyone needs a podcast to listen to, to cheer them up on the Monday morning into work or something, then download one of Dean's podcasts, listen to some good music, and have a little laugh and a giggle. The only other shout-outs or kind of housekeeping that I've got to do is Andy Godoy. Andy Godoy, I've not heard back about my challenge of watching a Christopher Lambert film. So come on, you laid the challenge. I've picked the gauntlet up and I've accepted the challenge, but you've not come back. So, like I say, anytime I will watch a Christopher Lambert movie of your choosing for this podcast, but you have to come on and be a guest, my friend. So, open call out. I'm waiting to hear back from you.
Yeah. If he was going to pick a Christopher Lambert film, which film would you think he'd go for?
The one that would cause me the most discomfort. So
Well, it wouldn't be Fortress, would it? Because I think it's not too bad in Fortress.
well, like I said, I would happily watch Fortress, but I think he would probably, knowing Andy, he'd probably go with the gaming
Highlander.
connection. No, I think he'd probably go with the gaming connection and go Mortal Kombat.
You think?
I think so, yeah, because
But Christopher Lambert's not in that long. I mean, he's only like.
that is a fair point. Yeah,
So
I
you
don't
might be
know.
alright with that. So if you picked Highlander, then you're gonna get Lambert down your throat.
Yeah, I'd struggle with that, and I would struggle with Greystoke as well.
Oh, if he picks Highlander 2, then God help us, because
That's probably
it's an awful film, and you got Lambert in it. So.
yeah, that's probably what my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
I don't want to ever watch Highlander 2, but I don't think he would be that, because I mean, if that's the case, he'd have to watch it as well, to talk about it. So would he be willing to put himself through that misery?
Well, this is Andy Goddard. He's got time to watch it because he's moving house now and stuff.
I know.
He might just come on and say, "Yeah, I've watched this film 10 years ago. I can't remember anything about it, but."
Yeah. So yeah, I know you're busy, Andy. I know you've got a load of stuff on at the moment, moving house, and obviously with your own podcast. Get to the chopper. Check it out, please, people. But yeah, I'm still waiting to hear back from you. So pull your finger out, lad. That's it from me.
That's it. Yeah, I think we're pretty much done.
That's it. Yeah, we've waffled on for a little bit there as well. Okay, so if you want to find us on the social medias, Untitled Film Podcast on Facebook. We have a closed group on there. Just ask for an invite, and we'll gladly let you in. At the Untitled Film Podcast on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think it's the same on Twitter, and we're also on Patreon. So if anyone is enjoying this really fragmented podcast, this kind of irreverent conversation that me and Lee have, and would like to support the show, head over to Patreon and check us out on at the Untitled Film Podcast on there. And if you want to drop us a line or an email, maybe request or a film that we check out or whatever, just contact us in general. It's untitledfilmpod@gmail.com. That's it. So yeah, keep an eye out, guys. We've got a Lord of the Rings podcast coming up, and we've got Labyrinth coming up in the next couple of weeks as well. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to listen, and we will see you on the next episode.
Bye, guys.